YouTube, what's good with y'all, man? And back to another banger. Saying back with another banger, y'all. Let's react to the biggest bright spot of every rebuilding NBA team. You know what I'm saying? Rebuilding NBA team. You know what I'm saying? Come with something light. Feel me? But anyway, just that who's reference. Biggest bright spot of the NBA team. Let's get straight to it, man. No introduction needed.
Competing at the highest level in the NBA is very difficult, and it can take years to construct a roster built strongly enough to have a chance to win a championship. Hovering in the realm of mediocrity is a limbo zone no franchise wants to find themselves in, so oftentimes nowadays, if an organization feels like that's the path that they're headed towards, then they hit the reset button and begin to rebuild. Rebuilding teams need to establish a solid core of young players to build around and develop so that one day they can emerge as true contenders. And a lot of smart decision making between the lines is also imperative to the success of a rebuild. This brings us to the topic of today's video.
When I was talking about this, I'm just thinking about my Pistons, man. This is the opposite of what the Pistons do, by the way. You know what I'm saying? Pistons, they don't know how to rebuild properly. They do not. I repeat, they do not. They never have, and they probably never will. They just don't know how to rebuild properly, man. They always trade away a dude after like one season, or they try to sign Jeremy Grant and Mason Plumlee. You know what I'm saying? Like,
where we will be going through every team currently in the rebuild phase and identifying the biggest bright spot about each of their situations. For clarity, the teams that I believe are in the rebuild phase right now are the Cavaliers, Pistons, Rockets, Timberwolves, Thunder, and Magic.
Rockets?
Before we start, though, it turns out about 64% of you watching right now aren't even subscribed to the channel, so please, if you enjoy the content, consider hitting the subscribe button, as not only does it help out a ton, but I would also very much appreciate it. Now, with that being said, let's begin. We'll go through the teams in alphabetical order by city, so the first rebuilding team we'll discuss today is the Cleveland Cavaliers, and the biggest bright spot for them right now is the fact that they have a very promising young backcourt set in stone for the future with Darius Garland and Colin Sexton. Shot creation and playmaking is as valuable as ever in today's NBA, and when teams start from scratch, finding a worthwhile guard that can score efficiently at a high level is very difficult, and finding two of them is damn near impossible. The Suns went about 5 years with Devin Booker, struggling to find him a permanent running mate in the backcourt until they added Chris Paul this year, just for an example of how difficult it can be. And while I'm definitely not saying that either of them are as good as CP3, I am saying that they've been playing terrific basketball early on in their careers. Sexton's one of the most...
Hey, I'm not gonna lie, I don't watch a lot of Cleveland basketball. I don't know how good Sexton is playing. I'm assuming he's doing pretty good. Sexton and Garland, I'm not a fan. I mean, I don't really care about the Cavs. But if that was the Pistons, I would be happy because we have nothing else. But like, I don't know. I would rather trade one of them because they both have like high trade value right now, and like get some good draft picks and the assets for one of them. Probably trade Garland. You know what I'm saying? Probably. I don't know.
Underrated.
We'll see.
Scorers in the whole league right now, scoring about 24 points per game on 48% shooting from the field. And Garland is knocking down 40% of his threes this season, scoring about 17 points, and taking big strides as a passer and playmaker. The Cavs have a lot of good pieces in their foundation, and center Jarrett Allen was definitely also in consideration to be the pick here, but having a backcourt that plays well off of each other and produces at a high level this early on is definitely the brightest part of their rebuild to this point. Next up is
Sexton, nasty boy. Sexton is nasty.
And the brightest spot of their rebuild to this point is the fact that Jeremy Grant is easily living up to the big $60 million contract that he was...
What did you say to me, sir? Can you repeat that real quick? Let me hear that again.
Next up is the Detroit Pistons, and the brightest spot of their rebuild to this point is the fact that Jeremy Grant is easily living up to the big $60 million contract that he received this offseason.
am not a fan of Jeremy Grant. I'm just not. I'm a Pistons fan. I'm a Pistons fan. Okay. I'm not a fan of Jeremy Grant. Jeremy Grant, let me tell you, you realize, think about this. Jeremy Grant was a backup center, a backup power forward 2 years ago on the Thunder. Back in the Patrick Patterson and like Markieff Morris on the Thunder. And then he went to start for Denver. And you think he can just come to the Pistons and just, oh, he's an all-star. Oh my God, Jeremy Grant. Oh. Like, this kind of stuff doesn't just happen overnight. You realize that. Like, you can't just automatically just randomly start being able to dribble and start being able to shoot. Like, Jeremy Grant is still a backup power forward. But he's just on the Pistons. That's the only reason he's putting up these numbers. Anybody on the Pistons can put up these numbers. I could go on the Pistons and put up 20 points a game because they have no one else. You know what I'm saying? Like, literally nobody else. They have like 20 centers. They have 20 centers. They have Jahlil Okafor. They have Mason Plumlee. They had, bro, look, all I'm saying is Jeremy Grant, I'm not going to say he didn't deserve it because I don't knock no black man getting his money and, whatever. That's great. Okay, but I just wish the Pistons didn't give him $20 million. Okay, that's all I'm going to say about that. He should not have gotten $20 million from the Pistons. And the only reason he's putting up these numbers is because he's on the Pistons and they suck. They're very bad. All right. Same with Josh Jackson. He was literally on the Suns and the Grizzlies, and they had more talent than we do. Now he's on the Pistons with nobody else except Jeremy Grant. And now he's putting up decent numbers. And, this is just... The Pistons are like a G League team. Like, you just go there. Like, you go there, get your stats up, and then you get out and get a paycheck. Just like Christian Wood did. This is what Christian Wood used us for, just like these dudes are using us for. He got there, put up his numbers, got his paycheck, bounced. That's these guys.
Admittedly, when the Pistons paid Grant an annual salary of $20 million per year for 3 years this summer, a lot of people, myself included, were a bit skeptical about the decision because prior to coming to Detroit, he was a defensive specialist and role player off the bench for teams.
That's what I'm saying. Thank you. He's a role player. He's not a star. He's not an all-star. Jeremy Grant is not an all-star. I'm sorry. Jeremy Grant is not. Jeremy Grant is not an all-star. Hence, he didn't make the all-star team. All right. I'm not even trying to sound like a hater, but you're giving people too much credit. Like, okay, it's cool. Putting up 20, that's respectable. You know what I'm saying? Because you still have to have some talent to be able to put up those numbers in the NBA, right? Obviously. But just the fact that he's doing it on the Pistons, just like shoots down the impressiveness. Like, bro, he's a defensive. That's what I thought he was. He's not supposed to be your star. Taking guys off the dribble and doing ISOs, and he's supposed to be there blocking shots and doing all this stuff. Man.
He was a defensive specialist and role player off of the bench for teams. Admittedly, he was a pretty damn good role player for the Nuggets teams that made deep playoff runs, but at the same time, the responsibilities of a number 1 or number 2 option are much different than anything he's had to experience previously.
Exactly.
And to his credit, he's handled it masterfully.
No.
The most important part is that he's developed into a productive go-to guy while the team is still losing games this year, so their draft pick will still be able to potentially bring in another promising young
And
prospect.
the fact that he's too old to be a part of a rebuild. Hey, Siri. How old is Jeremy Grant?
One moment. Jeremy Grant.
Exactly. This dude is already 27. In 3 years, he's going to be 30. There's not enough time for a rebuild. Killian Hayes is like 20. Josh Jackson like 24. You know what I'm saying? Like, bro.
Prospect to develop. And as Grant is still just 27 years old, his time in Detroit will either be spent working towards getting another big contract elsewhere, or the Pistons' process will be coming along nicely by then, and they'll re-sign him to help lead them back into contention. But either way, the success of the signing has been a clear bright spot. The next team up is the Houston Rockets, and the biggest bright spot of their rebuild early on, seeing as it is their first year rebuilding so far, has been the Kevin Porter Jr. home run signing. When the Cavaliers released...
Well, you know the Pistons are supposed to get him at some point. They were supposed to get him, I think. I think they had 30th pick, or the Bucks had it. And I don't know. There was,
earlier this year,
we were supposed to get him, but he ended up in Cleveland somehow.
There was plenty of doubt about whether he was worth it or not. But he's come to Houston, he's put his head down, and he's worked incredibly hard to prove that he is worth the risk, and his production on the court is completely justifying that leap of faith in him. In his time in Houston this year, he's averaging about 16 points and 6 assists per game, and with his playmaking and passing ability far surpassing any expectations anyone had for him, and his ability to create his own offense, create space, and get to his spots, showing very promising signs for the future, he's looking like a good one without question. With Porter Jr. dating all the way back to college, there have been question marks about his attitude off the court, but with the way he's responded to this adversity, the talent is more than worth it. And after the Rockets were able to acquire him for essentially nothing, he's one of the biggest home run finds of the season. The next rebuilding team up is the Minnesota Timberwolves, and their biggest bright spot to move forward with is Anthony Edwards living up to the hype. Obviously, I could have gone with the cop-out answer and chose Karl Anthony Towns for being the clear best player on the team and face of the franchise. But when you get the number one pick in a draft, there's a lot of pressure to take someone that's a big-time hit. And as the season has progressed, Edwards has looked more and more comfortable out on the court, and he's shown that he has the
potential. How do you get dunked on that? Like, how do you even...
potential to, without question, be
how you get dunked on by a rookie and fall.
He's a confident scorer from all three levels. His explosive athleticism has been on full display over the last month or so, wowing every NBA fan out there, and most importantly, his efficiency has steadily improved over time. Obviously, the scoring efficiency still isn't great, making just 40% of his shots and 32% of his threes, but pretty much every rookie is inefficient when thrust into big roles like he has, and improvement does get made over time in that regard, and the fact that it's happened to him is a promising sign. Since the beginning of March, he's been scoring about 24 points per game, and his field goal percentage has risen to about 43%, which is closer to league average. He has the type of talent you want to see from number one picks, and it was incredibly important for that to be the case, because the franchise probably couldn't have afforded to fumble a number one pick. Next up.
Yeah, man, they had like three number one picks. They had Williams, they had Towns, and they had Edwards. I know Wiggins was traded there, but still, like,
is the Oklahoma City Thunder, and the biggest bright spot for their rebuild right now is the absolute treasure chest of draft picks that they've gathered for themselves over the next few years. Over the next 6 years, the Thunder own 34 draft picks, with 17 of them being first-round picks and 17 of them being second-round picks. That is an absolutely absurd number, and for a team that already has a pretty strong foundation of young talent with players like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Lou Dort, Moses Brown, and several others.
You just named Lou Dort and Moses Brown as the top three players. Oh, they're down bad for sure, bro.
That's a lot of
down bad, man.
More
I mean, I can't be talking. I'm a Pistons fan, right? Okay, I'll take it.
Future contributors, or even better, future stars to build around. They can sit back and focus on developing the guys that they have now, and the best part is that they don't have to feel nervous about whiffing on a selection or two, because they have an insane amount of second chances available at their disposal in the form of draft capital. Plus, if things for the team start to progress sooner rather than later, they can use those picks to create trade packages for other quality players and fill out the roster with players ready to compete. So either way...
Shai just reminds me of Polo G a little bit. I don't really know why. Like, they have similar body builds. They're probably similar in height. Well, maybe not. Shai Gilgeous like 6'5". Shai Gilgeous like 6'5", so probably not. But
win-win for them, and the future looks very bright.
They're kind of like underrated, but still like, well, actually, Pelicans not really underrated though. Everybody knows them.
And finally, the last rebuilding team we'll discuss today is the Orlando Magic, who just shifted towards a rebuild at this year's trade deadline, and their biggest bright spot at the moment is the fact that they have two very solid young two-way players under contract for a while in Markelle Fultz and Jonathan Isaac.
You mean two guys that are injured?
Admittedly, because of how new the Magic are to the rebuild game, it was kind of difficult to pinpoint their exact brightest spot right now. And admittedly, this selection isn't the greatest because of the fact that both Fultz and Isaac are currently injured.
Right.
But Fultz has started to emerge as a dynamic playmaker, and Isaac looked like a Defensive Player of the Year candidate the last time that he was on the court healthy. It's not perfect by any means, but it is a good start. And from here, they have a long way to go. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you...
I can't believe this dude was a first round pick, man. The first pick. It's crazy. But I'll see y'all in the next video, man. Hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure to smash the like button and comment what you think about the video. And I'll see y'all next time.